All right.
After.
Yeah, we'll give it a couple minutes to let people jump on and then we'll get started.
You don't happen to know the story behind how Andy came up with XenTegra, do you?
No, that's a good question. It's kind of funny. Well, as from what I understand, and I don't quote me, I could be wrong, right? Well, of course, Zen, right, being from the Citrix days. Of course, Citrix has changed their name several times, but at the time you had Zen App, Zen Desktop, Zen Server, and since it was Citrix focused, or that's kind of where we started, right? That was sort of that. Staying within that same sort of naming standard. And then Tegra was bringing integrity, I think, and just, to Citrix and to our customers and so forth. So that's what I've heard. Could be wrong. That would probably be the first time, but I'll just say that that's what I've heard. But I'm sure there's a good story behind that. I definitely will have to ask. It's funny, I've never thought of asking myself, other than just in passing conversation. Definitely would like to hear that as well.
I just sent Chris a clap emote yesterday because he stopped saying Zen App Server.
Well, and then he just recently changed, right? So on the cloud side, now you have Citrix DAS.
Yep, as opposed to CVAD-S
right,
or whatever the people were referencing us. Yeah.
Yep, exactly. So, hey guys, those are of you that are joining. We're just going to give it just a couple of minutes before we get started. It's a Friday afternoon, and expecting we'll probably have a few people jumping on late. So we're going to wait till about 1:35, and then we'll get this rolling. So hope everyone's having a great Friday so far. It's a great way to end the afternoon. Hey Deb, I see you're from Ohio, it looks like. Welcome. Yeah, if you guys want to throw some, if you guys want to chat with us, feel free to throw that into the chat window. Love to hear where you guys are joining from. I'm outside of Charlotte, North Carolina today. It's nice, sunny. We had a little bit of rain this morning, but it's definitely cleared up. It's like it's going to be a nice weekend, so I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, that was just like a comment. Yeah, we had a lot of storms and rain this morning. So where are you guys joining from? You guys want to throw that in the chat? Chris, you guys are out of or you're out of Atlanta, right?
Yeah, Athens, Georgia, and we had massive storms last night.
Yeah, that must be what we were getting this morning. How about you, Johnny?
I'm in Colorado. It's back to 90 degrees. Last week it was weird when I came home from the CUGCXL. It was 40 degrees and snowing.
Wow.
Now it's back up to 80 and 80 degrees the last 2 days.
Hey, Daniel, I just saw Lexington, Kentucky. It's kind of funny. I had never been to Lexington. My son actually plays basketball, and I had to travel up to Lexington. It's been a few weeks ago now. He played in a tournament up in Lexington. It's a pretty nice place. I was up there for the I think it was called the Thunder. I can't remember. Thunder over Louisville or Lexington rather, whatever they call it. It was but it was a pretty interesting trip. Got to see a lot of sites and so forth never seen before. So Thunder over Louisville. Yep, that's it. Yep. So It's very good. Very cool. A ton of people there. All right, guys, I guess we'll go ahead and get started. Like I said, I was going to give it a couple minutes as people were joining. Feel free along the way to throw any questions, comments. We definitely like this to be interactive, right? So as we go through this, I'll be monitoring the chat window. So if you have a question, don't hesitate to ask, throw it in the chat window. I'll either address it, Chris and Johnny can also monitor the chat window. Again, we definitely want this to be interactive. So if there's any questions along the way. One thing I do want to mention, we are giving away a Ford Bronco. If you guys aren't familiar with this, or if this is the first time you joined one of our workshops or webinars, we are giving away a Ford Bronco. This is for the sweepstakes we're doing for next year. We were running this for, I guess, the previous year, and we've actually pulled the names of 5 finalists, and we're actually giving away a Ford Bronco at the end of June to one lucky winner. So out of those 5 finalists. So, that was great. That contest is ended. So we've started another one. Definitely go out, fill that out. You definitely got to be in it to win it, right? So love to see one of you guys drive away with a Ford Bronco. Just real quick on our agenda for today, just very briefly, I'm going to cover who we are from a XenTegra standpoint. We'll let Liquidware introduce themselves. We're going to talk about application delivery, specifically, the issues with application delivery, the challenges, and the solutions that we see today. Moving into that, Liquidware is going to actually demo FlexApp for us. We're going to talk about future roadmap, things that are coming out. And then with time remaining, address any particular questions you guys may have. Like I said, I definitely don't want to wait to the end. So if you guys have any specific questions, throw those in the chat. We'll be monitoring those along the way. Again, my name is Randy Price. I live in Monroe, North Carolina. That's right outside of Charlotte. It's one of the suburbs. I've been in the industry for 20 plus years, working with Citrix, VMware, Microsoft solutions. I am a XenTegra, it says sales engineer. Now we're calling ourselves solutions architects. Closer to 5 years now. I handle a lot of our micro assessments. So if you guys have ever participated in one of those, most likely there was a good chance that I was involved in that in some capacity. A lot of various interests there, right? Definitely the end user computing space. Also with me today, I'm joined by Chris and Johnny. I'll let them introduce themselves. Chris, you want to go first?
Yeah. Hello, everyone. My name is Chris Walker. I am with Liquidware based out of Athens, Georgia, and I'm the subject matter expert for Stratosphere North America.
Very good.
Yep. And I'm Johnny Ma. I'm the field SD that covers this territory and also various other territories. But I am a Profile Unity and FlexApp expert.
Very good. Appreciate it, guys. So real quick, let's talk about who we are from XenTegra, right? So this is Andy Whiteside. He's our founder and CEO. Andy was a Citrix sales engineer for, I think it was about 7 years. And while he was in this role, he came to realize that at that time, Citrix channel partners really only cared about getting brought into customer accounts and closing deals. And what customers really needed was enablement around these products that they were purchasing. And at that time, either the vendors were not able to provide this enablement or just not willing. And this really frustrated Andy. And so Andy left Citrix, and in 2012, he founded XenTegra. XenTegra with the goal of, again, enabling customers, right? Enhancing the end user community and really trying to form true partnerships with the various vendors within the ecosystem. XenTegra strives to add value and enable our customers through education and training with events such as this, right? These workshops that we host. We also host a lot of webinars. Definitely go check that out as well on our site. And today, XenTegra is a virtual end user computing reseller. Again, we invest heavily in our partnerships, our customers, and the community by providing carefully selected products or solutions, couple that with expert services, along with practical training and advice. So again, our goal is to bring the right products together to enable a user-centric workspace. We sell, we design, we integrate these solutions to help to get technology out of the way, but enhance user productivity and help you along your digital transformation journey. You know, our roots, I kind of mentioned, were with Citrix, but our goal is to make your end user compute solution successful. So we actually pulled in other key focused partners to enhance and expand your end user or your user workspace experience. Things like Agile, Microsoft, Nutanix, ServiceNow, and VMware. Our strategic partners are, you know, I guess I would call them, I don't know if this is a correct term, but maybe a niche solution, right? And they help take the end user computing deployment from good to great. XenTegra handpicks these partners and embeds them where needed to help our clients be successful. So why is XenTegra, right? We realize that when you guys have many different options when it comes to partners in the end user compute space. However, I'll be as far as to say no partner will add as much value as XenTegra does. We ask you to truly evaluate whoever you guys have as your current partner and ask yourself, what value do they truly bring, right? How does this partner ensure my future success? Or does this partner really only care about, you know, completing a transaction? We are committed to our customers. We invest again heavily and with our, not only our customers, but also prospects, right? Via education, events. We're capable. We employ only the best of the best. We pride ourselves on getting industry experts and employees who are passionate around this space and passionate about your success. We're also a top national Citrix and Microsoft partner. You know, we're growing, we're smart, being smart and strategic. There's really no client that's too big or too small. We treat our clients the same regardless. And again, the value add, and these are just a few of those. One, the webinars that we host a series called Webinar Wednesday. That's typically on Wednesdays, where we'll go over various technologies. Definitely check those out. And you can get all this on our events page. Hands-on workshops. We also offer vendor-focused podcasts. So if you guys are, you know, interested in listening to podcasts and keeping up to date on the various technologies, definitely go check that out. We have podcasts around a lot of these various solutions. We also give out conference passes when, you know, hopefully these spin up and start going full force again. We are giving away a conference pass to VMware. There's some details around that. We also perform these complimentary assessments, and that's the micro assessment I was referring to earlier. So if you guys have not taken advantage of that, definitely reach out afterwards. It's typically a 4-hour engagement at no cost, where we come in and look at either your Citrix or your VMware environment, right? It could be Horizon or your Citrix environment, and essentially provide a SWOT analysis, listing your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So a lot of value there. I would go as far as to say no one else in the industry does this, especially at zero cost, right? So it's a great way to have us come in and just give you an overview of what you guys have deployed and help you understand what entitlements you have and you know, potential value added solutions and configuration options that could provide a better user experience or admin experience. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Liquidware and let you guys do a quick introduction of who you guys are.
Thanks, Randy, and thanks for hosting this event.
Sure.
Chris Walker here. Basically, Liquidware, we work with digital workspace management. So that includes persona management with our user environment system called Profile Unity. So a user can log in to Citrix today, Horizon tomorrow, Amazon the next day, Azure, Google, back into their local or even their physical machine, and moving that user's persona around, basically decoupling their persona. So their Outlook signature, pictures of their kids, all of their settings, their favorites, their history. Profile Unity allows me to do that and run truly active data centers. So that's our user management. Then our application layering technology is called FlexApp, and it's not a separate bolt-on product. This is actually integrated very deeply with Profile Unity, and we built all of this technology. We're going to talk a lot about FlexApp today. this key goal of any layering technology is to reduce the number of images and make it easier. And we think we've done a pretty good job with FlexApp package once technology. So I can package it for Citrix. Somebody can log into Horizon, log into Azure, still get the same applications delivered to them on the fly when they log in. Our monitoring and diagnostic solution, Stratosphere UX, allows me to monitor everything about that user's experience, down to the CPU temperature in their machine, how far are they away from their access point at their house, what frequency are they running. Then the Citrix protocol, ICA, PC over IP, BLAST for Horizon, every aspect of that user, even application latency. So Microsoft Teams running in Boise, Idaho, talking to the Microsoft front doors in Virginia, what is the latency from that user to that system? So we offer this as an essential suite or individually priced for our users. It is licensed, named, or concurrent, depending on your type of business. So most of the time, healthcare does a concurrent license. But what's unique about it is we don't license by the machine. So I can log into one machine or 50 different machines simultaneously. I'm one user. That makes us, kind of unique in the environment that I can actually log in across multiple systems and still only chew up one license. Thank you very much, Randy.
All right, appreciate it. Thank you. So let's talk about application delivery. Before we jump into that, I do have a poll or a couple of questions that I want to present to you guys. Let me bring this up just to get a better understanding of what you guys are doing today. And we can use that to speak to during this. So real quick, I'd just like to understand, what industry best aligns with your current business? What application layering or deployment solution are you utilizing today, if any at all? What's your current desktop deployment strategy, and how many images are you maintaining? So if you guys would take a moment, just answer a couple of those questions, that'll be very helpful. So.
Randy, just a side note, it normally doesn't let panelists vote on that, but it let me vote this time.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
I voted for myself, by the way. I voted for myself.
Okay. So we'll give it a couple more moments here. See if we can get a few more. Love to see if I can get 100% participation where. So we got several of you guys from the financial sector, so that's good. Let's see. A few more moments here. Okay. We give it one more moment and we're going to close it down. All right. I'm going to close it. So very quickly, it looks like we've got, let me share this. We've got some financials, some manufacturing, other. I'd love to know what other is. If you can throw that into the chat window. Looks like you guys, you've got some using FlexApp, some using app layering, other, distribution solution. Again, love to hear what you guys are doing there. Throw that in there. And it looks like everyone's using Citrix. And from an image management perspective, one person said way too many images. Another one said more than 10. 1 to 5 seems to be kind of the main average there. So very good. Like I said, okay, Deb, I see your message. The poll wasn't letting you scroll. Apologize for that. I'm not sure what was going on there. Again, just love to know, it looks like everybody is mainly using Citrix. If you guys are using VMware or some other solution, Nutanix, Frame, AVD, AWS workspaces, whatever, feel free to throw that in the chat. I'd love to know, and we kind of speak to those and give you guys some examples of where this may fit in or what we see as far as challenges and so forth. So with that, I want to go ahead and talk about, what is the problem? So, my assumption is you guys joined today because, again, there's some sort of issue, some sort of problem. And most likely those issues are dealing today with application delivery or image management. So when we talk about application delivery, what sort of challenges or issues are we trying to solve, right? Typically, I believe the most common issues are having to install apps per PC or image, right? And that's really inefficient and time consuming. And when we have multiple departments and we're trying to maintain or these individualized apps or specialized applications, it becomes very time consuming. How do we handle that? Again, we typically have multiple images based upon departmental apps. So, back in the day before layering technologies, it was very common, you would create silos, right? So we would have this huge Citrix environment with multiple images, and we had these silos that we were deploying to be able to handle this, which is great for being able to address the issue, but it was a nightmare on the administrative side, right? Having to maintain all those, especially when it came time to patch. The other thing that kind of complicates that is, these images are also based upon the OS version, which really multiplies that issue, especially if we have, tens to hundreds of apps that we're having to maintain. It's really a never-ending lifecycle management issue for both virtual and as well as physical desktops when we're trying to maintain applications, apply the latest updates and patches, as well as just the versioning of those. So what is the solution, right? How can we solve this problem? And it really comes down to separating the apps from the image, right? From that base image. When you think about it, managing the apps from the base image is more efficient, right? The base OS management becomes much simpler and easier. We have far less number of images required because now the apps are managed separately. This allows those base images to remain clean and pristine, right? We're not injecting, all of these registry entries and additional files into the base image for all these applications and worrying about conflicts and things of this nature. Now we have the capability to keep those clean and pristine. This also allows for the potential portability of those applications across operating systems, meaning if that application is supported on Windows 10 in 2019, having that application be portable across those OSs. So, question comes, who can really benefit from this approach the most? And really it's everyone, right? Especially customers with dozens or hundreds of applications. And again, it doesn't really matter really how small or how large you are from an image perspective, a number of apps, everyone can really benefit from this approach. So when we talk about that, next question is asked, okay, we have a solution. What technology solution can help solve these problems or challenges, right? And provide the ability to decouple the applications from the base OS. There's several players in this space. We've got Citrix app layering, we've got VMware app volumes, there's several different players in this space. But no one can provide the flexibility, the ease of deployment, and the administration that Liquidware can with their FlexApp solution. And that's why Liquidware FlexApp is considered a leader in this space. If you look, Liquidware has won numerous awards, and FlexApp was also the first app layering solution on Amazon Marketplace, as well as Microsoft Azure Marketplace. And if you guys, I know most of you had said you guys were using Citrix today, and you guys are using Citrix app layering. There's a lot of differences between the two, right? Between something like a FlexApp. And we'll go into that and some of the benefits of FlexApp over, say, a Citrix app layering solution. FlexApp is an advanced feature within what they call their Profile Unity user environment management platform. So Profile Unity is the underlying platform framework, I guess you could say. It is a fully integrated solution that leverages profile settings and policies. But FlexApp can also be implemented independent of Profile Unity's core UEM features, right? So if you already have some sort of user persona manager that you're using today and you like it, great, you can still use FlexApp. If not, if you guys aren't utilizing some sort of user environment management solution, definitely coupling that, Profile Unity with FlexApp does give you the biggest bang for your buck from a deployment standpoint and granularity. And we'll talk about that in a moment and kind of give you a quick overview of what Profile Unity brings for those of you that are not familiar with that. But FlexApp does enable you as an administrator to assign departmental level apps to groups of users, right? Instead of having to bake that application into the underlying OS. FlexApp application layer is compatible with all the major desktop virtualization platforms out there today, right? So that includes Citrix Virtual Apps and Desktops, or we were talking earlier, right? If you're on the cloud side, that's been rebranded Citrix DAS, VMware Horizon, Microsoft Azure Virtual Desktop, Amazon Workspaces, Nutanix Frame. You know, that's just to mention a few. One other thing that's kind of differentiates FlexApp is it also works on physical PCs, and that's a huge difference compared to something like Citrix App Layering, right? It supports virtually all application types. And again, it provides flexible layering options. So we can layer at system boot, we can layer at user login. They have a feature called click to layer, which allows you to display an icon for an application, but it has to actually layer into the OS until the user launches the app, right? We'll talk about that in a moment, why that is beneficial, but just know that there's many different ways that you can layer these applications into the OS. They also enables multi-cloud staging and hosting of applications using, you know, whatever your cloud provider choice is. You can actually host a store of applications in AWS or Azure, for example. And out of the box, FlexApp actually comes with some pre-packaged apps that you can utilize for testing. You can clone it, use it for yourself. We'll see that as well during the demo. So we talked about FlexApp. What are the benefits of using FlexApp compared to some of the other solutions out there? Those of you that are familiar with Citrix app layering, one of the biggest challenges, right, was just the time it took to layer an application. You know, having to spin up the packaging VM, and you go through the process of installing your app. Then you had to go through that process of finalizing the app and compiling it right before you could even go through and use it. Well, with FlexApp, they have a benefit called, or a feature called fast packaging, essentially meaning that you can package these applications in the same amount of time it takes to install them. So it's much quicker, right? As well as the ability to package once. I kind of mentioned this earlier, where you can take a packaged application, can be deployed to any Windows OS version that supports that application, right? So for example, if I have an application that's supported on Windows 10 and Server 2019, I can package that once and allow that application to be portable and run across both operating systems without having the need to have to package it for each OS, as long as that app is supported. Already spoke to the fact that FlexApp comes with cloud apps, right? And there's those prepackaged apps that you can be using or cloning, and the ability to create your own cloud-based repository. Again, natively, FlexApp supports all the major cloud storage providers. They also have a feature called session isolation. So you can have multiple users logged into a single Citrix virtual app server, Microsoft AVD server, or RDS host, and each one have their own set of unique applications, right? So again, that personalized, unique experience without having to install those applications into the base image. To handle any sort of packaging and interactions, FlexApp comes with what they call micro isolation. Again, it's another feature to handle that with zero file conflicts. Now that's different than isolation, right? Where we're trying to, in the sense of containerizing an application, right? Where it's running in a bubble, something like @v. This is really resolving any sort of file conflicts from an application level perspective. That also comes with application and user rights management, right? Bundling that with Profile Unity, which is a big feature that a lot of customers really love, as well as things like context-aware triggers, right? So based upon things like user, group, time, endpoint they're connecting from. Again, we'll see that a little later in the demo. And all of this is delivered from a centralized management console. A couple of nice things about that: there's no database requirements, right? We can utilize your existing infrastructure. We'll talk about that here in a moment, but essentially, you know, from an implementation standpoint, there's not a lot that's required compared to some of these other solutions. So this is the FlexApp layered approach. It's taking any Windows OS level, apps packaged individually and stored on a SIP share, some cloud-based storage. We assign those apps to users, and now we can create a desktop pool utilizing any OS or application combination, right? We get very granular at that point. And that is the main benefit of FlexApp. FlexApp also comes with a couple of newer features that have been released, one being their package automation. So imagine today, right, when you sit down, it's time to update your applications. If you're using Citrix App Layering and you have 10, 20 applications you have to layer, that's a very time-consuming task. Having to spin up the packaging VM, again, kind of already spoke to, going through that finalizing of the layer, shutting that down, waiting for that to compile, and then going through the same process again and again for each one of these applications. Well, with FlexApp, they have their own package automation where, think of it as more of a DevOps style, right? Where we can streamline this. So, it's Friday afternoon, right before Memorial Day weekend. I've got 20 apps I need to update. I can literally kick off this job, let this thing run, come in again Tuesday morning, having all of my packages or apps rather packaged, ready to go for me to deploy without me having to sit there and manually go through this process one by one. This right here is a game changer compared to some of the other layering solutions out there. Another innovative feature within FlexApp is what they call FlexApp One. So, today, again, there is an agent that gets deployed to our target devices to be able to provide these layers. The FlexApp One, these are self-contained, so we can take an application and essentially compile it down into a single application. That application then can be distributed through whatever method, right? It could be on a USB stick. We can push it down through something like Intune, giving it to contractors, for example. You even have the capability to add things like application expiration. So if I have contractors connecting in, maybe for 30 days, they need access to some specific application. Now I can put that thing on a USB drive, whatever, give them access to it, have them kick it off. They get a full blown version of the application and allows them to run offline and even for a certain period of time. So when that time frame expires, that application no longer becomes available and usable at that point. So, when we talk about FlexApp One, since I just kind of spoke about that, and FlexApp, I always like to talk about when would you use one versus another, right? And it really comes down to a few different things. And a lot of that's connectivity, right? If you need to be offline and is a well-managed device, that's where we would look at FlexApp One. Or we want to use something like Microsoft Endpoint Manager, SCCM to distribute these Flex apps. That's, again, where you look at FlexApp One. Where, again, wanting to share the application without having any sort of requirements on that Windows endpoint, again, FlexApp One. FlexApp, if we need to take advantage of things like app privilege, if there's registry modifications we need to make after app packaging, if we want inventory, and so forth, that's where we would look at FlexApp. A lot of I would say the majority of your use cases are most likely going to be FlexApp, except for more of those offline sort of use cases. That's where you're going to typically use FlexApp One. So when looking at FlexApp, we can see there's several potential use cases or benefits when utilizing Liquidware solution for application delivery versus some of these other solutions. Again, those examples include simplifying app management, the supporting non-persistent desktops, simplifying the base image management, business continuity, right? Being able to replicate those and be able to have those applications readily available both on-prem, maybe in a public cloud as well as the ability to support physical desktops, right? So instead of having to now manage applications both on the physical level and the virtual level, now I can manage those in one location and deploy those to both sort of use cases or scenarios. So I always like to bring up the fact that Liquidware also maintains a community site where you can find discussions, recipes, recommended practices for various applications. One thing to note there, if you go out there and check this out, there's really not a lot of recipes out there anymore. Liquidware has cleaned up a lot of these because, to be honest, their solution just works with the majority of the applications, right? So again, I know several of you had answered that you guys worked with Citrus App Layering. If you guys were familiar, there was quite a repository of app recipes that they called those, that you had to go through certain specific steps to get applications to work. Liquidware has done such a great job. A lot of these just work out of the box, right? With some configuration, with minimal configuration, just normally installing the application. They also, for those of you that are utilizing a solution like FS Logix, right, for profile management or Office containers, they also offer a free VHDX compacting tool to shrink those VHDs. You know, Microsoft provides a script to do that as well. Liquidware also has their own profile disk technology built into Profile Unity, but they also have a tool that you guys can utilize to shrink those VHDs. So just be aware of that as well. It's out on that community site. So very quickly, let's look at the FlexApp architecture. Again, kind of already spoke to this, but it utilizes the same architecture as Profile Unity. And for on-prem deployments, again, it runs as a standalone system. You can utilize your existing infrastructure for deployment, right? Again, no proprietary databases are used for user profiles or the data. There's a lightweight client that's installed to the endpoints that doesn't even require user downtime. These agent or files are typically hosted on something like the net logon share. And the reason for that is it's already there and it's highly available, right? You can use any other enterprise share if you guys have that, but just know that the fact that you guys have a net logon share, these are just some various configuration files. We can definitely take advantage of that and have replication to high availability natively without having to utilize any sort of other mechanism or enterprise share. So I do want to
let me clarify something about this slide. This slide may make certain people nervous. We have the option of storing data in the cloud. Most customers will have it on a SIF share inside of their environment, but you do have the option to use the cloud blob technology to store your persona data. So don't think that Profile Unity has to all be in the cloud. Most customers are running it completely on. So just want to clear that up a little bit.
No, that's a good point. That's a good point. You know, and kind of speaking of that, right, even from a Profile Unity standpoint, so I was going to chat real quick about Profile Unity. Profile Unity allows you to utilize those as well. And eGiven can help you to migrate, right? So in the background, there's this API level integration with all these major cloud providers. So in the background, let's say you're transitioning from on-prem to cloud to, you know, AWS, Azure, whatever it may be, or maybe you're utilizing one of those as your DR site, right? We can transition those user profiles securely at logoff or during the user session in the background from on-prem to cloud. So, you know, as your users are transitioning, maybe you're migrating again, going through a migration from on-prem to cloud, users can log in and get the same sort of user experience regardless of where their desktops are located or applications. And that includes, you know, user created data such as my documents, pictures, all of that can be set to automatically transfer in the background to the cloud. And again, utilizing these services, right? OneDrive, Amazon Workdocs, and so forth. This sort of functionality, right, helps ensure that that user data is available wherever the users have access. So, kind of mentioned earlier, I wanted to kind of briefly discuss Profile Unity before we jumped into the demo. It is a full feature-rich user persona management solution. FlexApp is built upon this, but again, you don't have to use Profile Unity if you already have a user persona solution in place and you're happy with it. Just know that this is here, works great, even works for physical PCs as well as your virtual desktop environment. Profile Unity decouples the user profiles, their settings and data from the OS, like FlexApp decouples the applications, right? So both of these working together really helps in that user migration lifecycle of migrating to new Windows desktops, right? So going from Windows 10, Windows 11, right? 2016, 2019, whatever it may be, right? And again, this is supported on Citrix Virtual Apps and desktops, Microsoft AVD, VMware Horizon. It really doesn't matter, physical, just across the board. And Profile Unity utilizes that same lightweight agent. Again, no complex package, the software packages that you have to install on the endpoints. It also separately stores and applies those user profiles, their data, and utilizing the engine that's layered applications to these Windows target devices or operating systems in just a matter of seconds of login, right? Allowing you guys to be more flexible and granular with your desktop pools. And one thing to note, these profiles are extremely portable across operating systems. If kind of spoke to earlier, if you guys are using something like FS Logix today with their profile disk, Profile Unity also has its own profile disk solution. Again, FS Logix storing on a VHD or VHDX, typically you'll configure one of these per operating system for your users. The nice thing about Profile Unity, they can even utilize Profile Unity to hydrate those, right? So when a user logs in, there's no configuration. You're hydrating those profiles as well as allowing it to have portability across different operating systems. So Profile Unity really offers these key advantages. And this is my last slide, I promise, before we get into the demo. Again, centralized dynamic user profiles and management across all Windows versions. They do retain a couple quick things to point out. It does retain profiles in your native Windows format, which means they're backward and forward compatible across the various Windows operating system versions, and can coexist with multiple operating system versions, right? So again, having that capability to be portable across OSs, hydrate FS Logix profiles, does include application rights management at no additional cost, gives you the capability to elevate privileges for specific users to run or install applications, or even do the opposite, right? Restricting users from running specific applications in your base image. Also comes with context-aware filters, gives you granular control on how these configurations are applied. Again, I kind of already spoke to the fact you can do this based upon subnet, OU, computer name, user, time of day, and you can even combine these, right? So multiple different aspects in that regard as far as how these filters are applied. Again, just works across mixed OS environments. And the last thing, which I feel is important, is it's really agnostic, right? It doesn't matter what the desktop is, whether it's virtual, cloud-based, any of the cloud-based workspaces that we mentioned earlier, or even a physical device. It just works.
Yeah.
All right. With that,
we're being purchased for the virtual environment. Most of the time we get involved with Citrix or Horizon or something like that. But our largest deployments are actually physical.
That's a good point. That's a very good point. And so, that's the nice thing, right? Imagine, you've got a physical deployment. Now users, when they start down that, that transition, if they haven't already, to some sort of workspace environment, being able to take that same profile, migrate it over, user gets that same sort of user experience, right? That's a great use case there. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Johnny and let him give us a quick demo, kind of walk through the console and what it's like to actually package an application. So I'm going to stop sharing. Johnny, if you want to.
Yep. Thank you, Randy. See my screen, right?
Yes.
All right. So walking back to Randy's slide about the architecture, we have a Profile Unity server. The Profile Unity server does run on a server operating system. You can have one Profile Unity server for your entire environment. It could be either in the cloud, on-prem. It can manage both in any fashion that you actually have it in, right? So having a Profile Unity server, I come in here and I can build a lot of configurations. I can build as many configurations as I want. There's no limitation on building the configurations. So if I want to do one configuration to do system-based layering, I can build one. I can do one for user-based layering. I can build another one. Just build as many configurations that make sense for your environment. Just minimize the amount of confusion and stuff like that that happens in your world more than anything else. So if we look at the main two configurations that we have here, I have a system FlexApp. This is where the machine boots up, attaches a handful of applications from my user. And then I also have a user FlexApp. So based on user group filters, user group context, user environmental context, I can say, you know, give me this application if I meet this criteria of coming in from this IP address, belonging to this group, coming in from this endpoint name, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. From a system-based FlexApp, how we actually attach those layers on machine boot is we actually use FlexApp as a service. FlexApp as a service, basically, we actually have encrypted credentials for a service account that we use, and that account actually has read access to those FlexApp packages on your network share or your cloud object native storage, and then it retrieves those and attaches them to the system during the boot. Gives you a lot of advantages if everybody gets common applications like offices and browsers and PDF readers. We can pre-attach those before the user even logs in, and then there's no need to have any of that because everybody's going to get those common application productivity suite type of things. Just makes it so there's less amount of layers that need to attach and need to be filtered through for when the user actually logs into the session. So as we talk about in our couple of our features, one of our features is fast packaging. So for those of us that have seen Citrix app layering in practice or in the wild, the common thing that folks always talk about is why is Citrix app layering so slow? So the main differentiator between us and Citrix app layering is Citrix app layering wants your operating system. They want your server image. They want your virtual desktop image. And they actually have to manage and govern those before you can actually have an installable base for an application to pop up on. It does mean that we chain applications from to the operating system in Citrix app layering. In FlexApp, none of that actually happens. We just care about the application. We store the application as VHDX, and we're here to just play them back on wherever you have Windows. So there's no need to, you know, I need to click and create this application layer and then wait for Citrix app layering to spit out an installable base for you. From us, we just have a FlexApp packaging console, capture the application set, rinse and repeat, and we're off and we're good. So as we commonly like to do, we're not into, you know, the cooking show magic, you know, put the cake in the oven half an hour later with a little thing on the screen and then the cake pops out. We actually do live layering here. So I have a FlexApp packaging console here. Runs on server 2022. This machine is actually off the domain. There's a whole slew of optimizations that we offer for best practices on creating the most clean and optimized FlexApp packaging console. But for this instance here, we'll actually do a live layer right now. So I'm going to click the create button after I load up the FlexApp packaging console. And then I'm going to give this a name. In this case, we're going to capture a VLC player, not necessarily because VLC player is easy, it's just fast for this demo purpose. So I do have to fill out a version. This is actually using a future version of code than what it currently is generally available for folks. So there's actually extra features here, but we'll walk through a few of these here. So the packaging type is VHDX, which instantly lands me on-prem. So if I wanted to pre-land this in the cloud, I can actually pre-stage cloud credentials, and it'll actually automatically upload them to my Azure Blob Storage, S3 buckets, or Google Cloud buckets. But if I land it as VHDX, it'll always land on-prem. And then from there, if I capture it on-prem today, I can transfer it to the cloud later if I have a need to burst into the cloud, as they would commonly call it. So notice the size here, I set it at 20 gig. Setting at 20 gig is fine. This is a small application. It's very, very rare that this small application would even come remotely close to consuming 20 gig. There's no penalty of assigning it 20 gig as long as the expandable section is selected here. Once expandable is selected here, we are thin provisioning. So set it at 20 gig, set it as expandable, make it happen. There's no need to later on go, oh, I need to come over here and make this from 10 gig to 15 gig or 20 gig, any of that. Just set it at 20 gig, make it expandable, and you're off and you're good for a long while. So when I click this create button, what will happen here is, let me open up a different Windows Explorer, is that on my directory local to here, I create an empty VHD. And once that empty VHD is created, I'm ready to click the start button. Clicking that start button will record the operating system and will record the registry. So once I start recording, all I simply need to do is run through the installer of the application as I normally would. And I can choose and pick anything I would choose to pick normally out of here. So if I wanted to switch the language, it would record in that different language. So I'm just going to run through this installer, pick and choose as you normally would for any of these features and settings as well. And I'm just going to let it roll through the installer. Okay, at this time, I can elect to run it or not. I'm just going to run it. And if I'm satisfied with how it runs, I'm good to close the application and click the finish button. So clicking that finish button will actually uninstall the application from this machine. It'll make sure the VHD is unmountable and remountable. It'll do a whole bunch of various checks that allows me to use the package. So from here, all I simply need to do is hit the save button. I can come in here if I hit the extend button and add extra installers onto here. So if I'm installing an application that has like plugins or add-ins, I can do that from that right now. I can click on configure and I can delete icons, services, schedule tasks, and anything like that. If I hit the delete button, it'll discard anything I did. But in this case, I'm happy with what VLC has done on this installer. So I'm gonna hit the save button here. So once saved, once again, I'm able to come in and edit and clone and do what I need to do with the package. But for this case here, I need to transfer this package onto my file share so that I can assign it for my users to use. So all it is I'm simply copying it to my traditional file share that users would have read access to pull these applications from an on-prem system. So now if we come over to my Profile Unity console, I'm ready to update my configuration and import it in inventory. So I'm over here, and as Randy talked about earlier, our Liquidware console comes pre-staged with a handful of applications coming off of our S3 bucket. You can choose to hide these applications if you feel inclined to, or if you just want to quickly test and demo and whatever, you can feel free to take one of these applications and use them as well. There's no additional cost from coming off our S3 bucket. So from here, I am ready to go into importing the application from the share I just copied it to. Let me just trim down the path so that we are good and I can find it. So if I come out here, I have that VLC player and I just double click that metadata file and hit the import button. So at the very bottom, yep, go ahead.
Johnny, this is an interesting point. You can actually have XenTegra could package your applications and show them what's in that directory. So, complicated applications or multiple ones, actually, you could take the packager home, give it to your kids. They could package it. You could bring it back in the office. So yes. XenTegra could actually package applications for you. And basically, these 3 little files was what they would give you to put into your environment. And you just import and say, go.
Yes.
That's simple.
All right. So now that it's imported in inventory, it becomes deployable. So all I really need to do from here inside of my user configuration, it could be on a system configuration as well, just understand the process in which the application gets attached in either scenario. But from a user perspective, I just come into the FlexApp DIA module, add another rule for the VLC player. And the only real thing that assigning it is just dragging it from the right-hand column into the left-hand column. Earlier, we talked about click to layer. I'll actually check that box just for good demo purposes more than anything else. So I'm gonna hit the save here to commit the change to this module, hit the update button to commit the update to the configuration. And then all I really need to do is deploy the configuration so that on the next login of my virtual machine, I'm good and I'm ready and I know that I've been assigned VLC player.
Hey, Johnny, there was a question that came in, and Chris actually answered it in the chat, but I just wanted to kind of call it out.
Yeah.
In case you want to bring any more discussion around it. But Someone had asked, can it handle third-party plugins that attach to applications? For example, WebEx for Outlook.
Yes, most definitely.
Yep.
So you can either add that into the Office package, or you can add that into the WebEx package. Do you understand if it's an add-in for WebEx for Office on your FlexApp packaging console, you kind of have to have Office in order for that plugin to install correctly. So you may have multiple phases and multiple versions of that FlexApp packaging console, some that have Office, some that don't have Office. Just kind of fit it to your need, because if it truly is looking for Office because it's a plugin for one of those, if we are missing Office, it kind of doesn't actually work correctly for the plugins.
And just a side note, Johnny only packaged one application. He could have put 200 apps into that one package if he wanted to.
Yes.
The package is a combination. Sometimes your large applications, I want to put them in their own package, but maybe I have one called browsers, and that has Chrome and Firefox in it. So you can combine applications if you need to.
If you build every single application as its own package, it gives you flexibility. Some people may never want Firefox and they want Chrome. I can assign them separately if they're separate from each other in terms of the package. If I put them both in the same package, if I put 600 applications in the same package, you're kind of stuck with those as a user.
Yep, and Johnny, this always comes up right after we talk about this, is how many packages can I mount on a machine?
Roughly 2,000. I would certainly like to see the screenshot if someone comes remotely close to it.
Yeah. Yep.
And I would like to talk to that person and how they got there. But yes, it's actually the Microsoft limitation is 2,048 hard disk mounted into the operating system. The furthest extent I've actually seen folks take it in terms of real life use cases is roughly 30 to 40 applications attached onto a session. But yes. So now that I deployed the configuration out there, I'm ready to go over to a test machine. So this is a test Windows 10 20H2 machine, and I name my Windows 10s with the various versions because I'm not very creative and I know what they are. So from now, what I'm good. I deployed the configuration, and all I simply need to do is log in. So this machine has been online for a while. It picked up my system-based Flex apps already. So those are the Flex apps that are layered on machine boot. And what I'm doing when I'm logging in here is I'm actually processing portability. I'm mounting VHDs for things like OneDrive and whatnots. And then now I'm attaching all those other handful of applications that are assigned as a user basis, as well as this VLC player that we just captured here. So as we see, I can launch the VLC player. Everything fully behaves as it normally would for the VLC player. I can launch Adobe Reader. I can do all those types of things. Notice this dialog box that popped up here. That's click to layer. So what happens when we do click to layer is that we actually just create shortcuts for the application. We don't necessarily attach and mount that application on login. The shortcuts would show up in the normal traditional spots. So if the application is creating a shortcut into C users public desktop and the start menu for all users, those shortcuts would still be there. And then the user can double click those applications and log in and load those applications on the fly. Those are truly 100% on the fly. You shave a couple of milliseconds off your login time for not attaching a handful of layers. And it's kind of really up to you if you want to use it or not. There's nothing mandatory that says you have to do this and you have to do this and you have to do this, right? Common uses for click to layer are applications that are month end, quarter end type of applications. So if I have my accounting folks and they need to do month end, but it's not month end, I don't want to necessarily hide the application for them because they may have people asking questions where they need to reference things. So I can just choose to do click to layer for those. And then if they needed to load an application that for the accounting to look things up in, they can pull it up, take a look at it. And then you're just saving those few milliseconds on the attaching of the layer that would happen on login. So I loaded my VLC player. I loaded up my Adobe Acrobat, yada, yada. Everything behaves as normal. We aren't a containerization type of utility for application delivery. So anything like C video or C program files, VideoLAN, anything C program files, Adobe, it's all native in the operating system as we expect it to be. So that's the manual process of capturing an application. You can rinse and repeat, hundreds or thousands of applications later. That requires us as humans to click through those dialog boxes to perform installation. So if you have a lot of applications and, I'm trying to figure out how do I staff my folks to do this? Because if I have thousands and thousands of applications, that's thousands and thousands of applications to click through and work through that next finish save process, right? So as Randy's showed a slide earlier, we talked about FlexApp packaging automation. Packaging automation is where I'm sending a robot to package it for me. So we're talking, the common application sets, the 75 to 80% of the applications in the world that are the easy applications. So these are our putties, our WinSCPs, our VLC players, those types of applications like that. So with FlexApp packaging automation, if I send a robot to package it for me with the silent installation switches and every single other command line switch for the features that I want, I guarantee consistent packaging. So it's not today Bob created me the package and it looks like this. Tomorrow John creates me the package and it looks like this, because those folks dictated that they wanted to pick and choose features because that's how they would have installed it, not necessarily how it should have been installed for the organization. So packaging automation is very easy. Packaging automation does come with FlexApp if you own FlexApp. So there's a few pieces that exist in packaging automation. So I have a defaults.json that is that is a requirement here. Purely 100%, my encrypted credentials to my profile Unity server, my encrypted credentials to my shares and my user account that I'm packaging with. We encrypt those credentials, and there's a command you run to generate this file to make it happen so that the creds are encrypted, so that security doesn't harass us for plain text passwords and whatnot. I understand these files are JSON files, and JSON files are not traditionally normal type of files that we're modifying in our world, but it's actually a lot less daunting to modify a JSON file than anything else. Then I have another JSON file that's the packages file. So the packages file contains 4 lines that I care about: the name of the application, the size in megabytes on disk. So this is 20 gig, as we talked about before. If I do a fixed null, that means it's expandable, so we're then provisioning. The path to my actual installer, and then the silent installation switches and any other install arguments that I want for any of the various features that pop up there. So from here, I fill out 4 lines, 1, 2, 3, 4. The rest of the lines get filled out for me, and I can come in here and change those lines if I felt inclined to. But it is as simple as executing the automation script. So I have another command here. This command just basically makes sure my robot is ready and available. If it's not available, it'll show you that it's busy, or if there's a communication issue, it will show that it is incommunicado. So from here, once I click this Run with PowerShell button, what this will do is it'll actually go out there, send this package command to my automation agent here, my robot, and it'll actually spit me out a packaged version of WinSCP. It'll also automatically import it into my inventory. And then from there, I'm good to go and test. So you can be on a Friday afternoon, let's just say after this webinar, and you had 100 applications that you want to package. Hit the go button, take an early weekend because it's a Memorial Day weekend, and go do your thing, come back on Tuesday, and you're good to go with applications to test. So give this a second, and this will go from running 1 to success 1, and then we'll be fully good to go. So that's packaging automation. It's truly innovative in terms of what we do. There's not many or not any packaging automation that's out there in the world, because if I try to take Citrix app layering and automate it, it's kind of a good luck conversation. You have to script a lot of that stuff yourself, and a lot of times it's not open and scriptable and functioning to allow you to do that. So if I come out here, it says 1 successful. There's nothing running anymore. If you had any failures or any canceled, you would see those inside of a log as well. So coming back out to my location here, and I actually do land my packaging automation applications outside of my normal traditional human layered applications, just purely for demo purposes. Pick and choose your location that you choose to land them on is up to you logistically. So from here, I have the same 3 files. I have a WinSCP that becomes deployable. It's at the bottom of my list here. All I need to do is assign it to myself, log out, log in, and I'm good to go. So the last portion that we here to talk about is offline use case. We talked about FlexApp 1 on the slides. And, we talked about FlexApp 1 in terms of I need to go dark. I need to jump on an airplane, but I still need to run the application. And I can't buy the in-flight Wi-Fi because I won't be reimbursed. And since I'm doing stuff, I'm a principals type of person. If I'm not being reimbursed for work, I'm not taking money out of my own pocket to buy the in-flight Wi-Fi, right? So if I have that use case that's truly in my world, I can package those applications, distribute them to my user in whatever means necessary. So if I want to use Microsoft Endpoint Manager, VMware AirWatch, if I want to email it to you or copy it to you via flash drive, it's all good. It's all available for you, and you're off and you're rolling when you have that application. So how do I get there? So I have a handful of applications out here in my realm, and I'm ready to convert them and bundle them. So if I look at this, it's as simple as running a PowerShell script against the FlexApp package. So what it does mean in order to use FlexApp 1, you have to have FlexApp because the licenses are tied to each other already. And meaning I need to actually FlexApp capture my application before I can bundle it into a FlexApp 1. So in this case here, I have a FlexApp. Let's just package and bundle the VLC player that we captured earlier. So all I need to do is just run this bundle engine PS1, and assuming I could paste, which I can't for whatever reason. There we go. And all I really need to do is send the command like this. So run that bundle engine PS1 against my FlexApp package, hit the nice little enter button and agree. Yesterday I flipped the lab over. And I end up with a bundle process completed successfully. So now if I look at my VLC player directory, I end up with 4 files instead of 3 files. So these first 3 files are my normal files for FlexApp. This is actually a bundled and wrapped version of FlexApp that allows me to run as a standalone executable. Fundamentally, under the covers, I'm still attaching a VHDX into my session, and we're good, and we're good to go there. So I'm actually going to transfer this to a different share just because I like to organize my lab, so you don't have to do this. So, okay, now that I have 2 FlexApp 1s where I actually walk through a demo with. So I'm on this system. This system is very, very, very clean, has nothing. It's clean enough to the point where I don't even have Profile Unity and FlexApp at all on this machine. So what I can do from this machine is let's just walk through a scenario where we copied this from a flash drive onto my desktop. Essentially what we're doing here. So I can run through my VLC player. I can run through my Foxit reader. These applications will load. There's VLC player. Foxit's a little big in terms of what it needs to load, but there it is as well. And then I'm using these applications. If I come out here and I look under my disk management, just with the traditional FlexApp, as we actually do have these mounted into the operating system. And I can do something more interesting here. So if I'm completely offline use case, let's detach from the network. So I'm that user on a laptop. I closed the lid and went home because it's 4 o'clock on a Friday. And I'm leaving these applications running. These applications will still continue to run when I resume. There's no network connectivity back to a share or anything like that where these are running. And I'm using this to play whatever videos I have on this machine, and I'm using this to manipulate whatever PDF stuff I need to do in my world. We are 100% clean. So if I look at the operating system here and I go to C program files video LAN, we don't tattoo the registry. We don't inject a whole bunch of files into the system. This is actually just mounted through the VHD in that manner. So if I don't want these applications anymore, I can quit the application and I can stop the package for both Foxit and VLC. and understand that it kicked me up a directory because that video LAN directory doesn't exist anymore. So reverting back to clean state of the image is very, very, very easy. And you no longer are enforcing registry entries and file system objects into the operating system anymore. So if you wanted to revert something or flip versions or whatever, it's as simple as stopping it, updating the package, and you're off and rolling with the next one. Any other questions that have popped up in the demo here?
I don't see anything new. Definitely, if you guys have any questions, definitely throw those over into the chat window.
Yep. Otherwise, I will stop sharing and I'll turn it back to you, Randy. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Let me share my.
What's my question? Johnny, can you give some examples of some of the more complex applications that you've packaged?
Yeah, some of the complex applications are the AutoCAD, Autodesk type of applications. They are the ERP systems. Like if you wanted to do, you could layer SAP, you could layer EMRs applications. So like Epic is a capturable, replayable FlexApp layer. Next gen, those types of applications that are complex like that. I see someone in the chat, Daniel. Yes, we can just relaunch the application off of the desktop as it got copied over, and it just plays on our offline as well. Yes.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of benefits. You guys saw how easily it was to one package an application, deploy it, having it available offline. The editor is another big benefit, right? Having the capability to go in and edit those packages without having to. I always think of the days when I used to have to use Citrix app layering, and I go through that whole process and then realize that, oh, I forgot something, and now I had to go back and relayer the whole thing again, right? Create a new version and walk through that process. And with the editor that's built in, having that capability to
just needing to create a new version to delete a shortcut is kind of a long time of you're like, really, I gotta wait for this thing again.
Right, exactly. So I do want to call out a couple things real quick. If you guys are interested in, just performing a proof of concept or evaluating either Profile Unity or FlexApp, let us know. We can definitely work with you guys as well as Liquidware. Getting this stood up in your environment, it's a pretty quick engagement, right? Essentially, again, taking advantage of your existing infrastructure. And again, we can utilize this on both either your physical or virtual or both. Do want to call out a couple of things from a roadmap perspective of what's coming. Guys, I don't know if you guys want to talk to any of these specifically. Application cloaking is something. Go ahead, Chris.
Before we get to that, there was a question about can I use my Citrix app layering to control my OS and FlexApp to attach applications? Is that a normal practice?
That is a normal practice that we've seen. Most folks have abandoned the concept if they were using Citrix app layering to do application layers because of the time, but they want the versioning and governance of the operating system in that granular fashion. So you can most definitely run both in together so that you have the best of both worlds type of conversation.
Yeah, that's a pretty good use case, right? Being able to still use Citrix app layering to handle the OS, so that if you have multiple environments, say Azure and on-prem, being able to take that image and then being able to couple that with FlexApp to manage the applications. So, definitely, if there's any other questions, definitely keep those coming. Moving back to this, as far as what's coming up, I think we've kind of chatted, right? But hopefully by Q4 this year, these new innovations will be coming out. Application cloaking, from what I understand, and correct me if I'm wrong, that's the capability to essentially mask or hide these apps, right? So
that is a full file system cloaking. So if I want Visio out there for my folks, but only for a certain amount of them, I no longer have to worry about separate packages for those types of things like that and governing who does what to who. I can just say it's one package and I'm going to use a file system cloak to hide that Visio application unless you're supposed to get it.
And I'm kind of thinking back to that comment you had made earlier, right, where you create your, or maybe it was Chris, where you create a package with all of your browsers, right, your Firefox, your Chrome, your Edge, and then potentially using cloaking, this depending upon who needs access to what. I'm just using that as an example, but
Yep.
just giving you that flexibility to instead of having, definitely if you want to have individual packages, or if you have a single package with all of your browsers, maybe you've got an add-in and for those, and you're trying to reduce the number of packages you're maintaining or what have you, and then using the cloaking technology to really hide those or cloak those based upon the individual use cases. So, anything else here that you guys see? What was that?
It can cloak local files as well. So there's an executable. So yeah, there's an executable like Notepad, just for an example. You can pass to that and actually do what we call a deny, and it is invisible. So other things on there, the pre-cache blocking. So like a large application like Epic, an EMR for the hospitals, I want to pre-cache those blocks to the local machine, thereby making the applications much faster. And our filtering technology as well, allowing users, so I can detect, are you in this group? Is it Monday? Are you inside the network, outside the network? All of those things before I allow you access to those applications. New version control technology. Johnny, the FlexApp Packager API, so a much better API for our packaging system.
Yep.
Auto OS, what is that?
The conversion ones, like converting app Vs into Flex apps, that used to be a manual process, but coming in the 6.8.5 version, you just run the FlexApp packaging console where I click that create button, there's an arrow. I can actually do convert app V, point it at your app V, and it'll actually do the conversion for you. So it's just, you end up with that VHDX that we expect. Same thing with the MSIX side of the world. But on top of that, if you have significant investments in already an in-app V, MSIX, AWS AppStream, and the like, you can actually just use Profile Unity's console to do the assignments of those as well. So instead of just 100% saying FlexApp or nothing, we can actually use Profile Unity's console to assign all those applications from all those various locations as well in that 6.8.5 version.
Interesting. Definitely like the triggers, right? I know you mentioned earlier the capability to, assign applications, and I'm thinking around the fact that if a user is connected over, maybe I'm on my physical desktop in the office, I get access to the financial application. If I'm connecting through Citrix remotely from home, and it's on a weekend, maybe then at that point I don't layer in the application, right? You just having granularity.
It's like the doctor scenario, right? If I name my thin client in the OR dash yada, 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 I can trigger and filter on that saying, if the user is coming from thin client OR dash yada, 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 don't give them these applications. So if I have the doctor performing surgery in the OR, they don't get Outlook. I don't want them to look at email anyways, because they should be, working on the table.
Right.
They can roam the session back to their office where the endpoint is no longer called OR dash yada, yada, yada. And when they reconnect there, everything back to normal. Here's your Outlook. Have fun.
Very cool. And then, you mentioned earlier the ways to layer at boot, at log on, the click to layer, and now adding some additional options there, right? Post login, as well as trigger, right? Just having the additional ways to layer those applications in. So it's always good to see all the new things that's coming out. I mean, you guys are always, leading the pack again compared to the other solutions in this space. And just with these newer innovations that you guys are adding, it's definitely great. Like I said, I was a Citrix app layering guy for a while. Definitely made the switch over to a FlexApp and never looked back. It's been a game changer. So,
Johnny, I think we're doing beta is coming out soon for our customers for 6.8.5 beta.
Yeah, it's a beta 1 release 3 that can be given to certain customers right now as an early preview of it. But yes, there's a lot of moving pieces in that beta. So I wouldn't necessarily give it to folks in a production environment, but we can most definitely do if you really, really, really want to do certain functions of these.
Very cool. Well, guys, I definitely appreciate the time today. Before we jump and end this, I wanted to post it out there and see if anyone had any last minute questions or comments. Hopefully you guys found this workshop beneficial, as far as discovering some, newer potential use cases or information specifically around FlexApp and Profile Unity, how it may help you within your own environments, right? So I know, again, understanding that a lot of you guys have mentioned you guys were using Citrix today, managing multiple images, going through that whole lifecycle management. This is really that game changer, allowing you to manage, one from a Profile Unity, the user persona, the profile and their data, decoupling that from the OS, as well as the applications, right, from a FlexApp perspective, and really giving you that granular capability to allow users, no matter where they're connecting from, having that same sort of user experience, both on the physical side as well as the virtual side. So I don't see any additional questions. Chris, Johnny, I don't know if you guys have any other comments before we adjourn here.
Well, thank you. Thank everybody for attending.
Thank you.
And this is recorded. You're going to post this. You're going to send out emails.
That is correct. That's correct. So we'll definitely send this out. Once we jump off here and we get that recording, we'll make sure to send that out. If you guys have any questions or comments afterwards, definitely reach out. We'll follow up with you guys to see, if there's anything that we can do to help. Again, either from a proof of concept, if you guys just want to learn more about FlexApp or Profile Unity, don't hesitate to reach out. We're here to help. So, and I'd also like to thank Liquidware team, Chris, Johnny, for joining again today. Good job as always. And definitely you guys, again, we typically will host this workshop once a month. So, if it's something that maybe you didn't get to ask a question, or afterwards, if you review the video and have some additional questions, again, don't hesitate to reach out. Or if you want to join the next workshop, you're welcome to do that as well. So with that, I hope everyone.
Reach out to XenTegra if you want a demo or to do a proof of concept in your environment too. XenTegra can hook you up with a proof of concept.
That is correct. And with that, I definitely appreciate everyone's time this afternoon, and hope everyone has a great Memorial Day weekend. All right.
Thank you, everybody.
All right. Thank you, guys. All right.
Have a good day. Bye.